back into picks and bans here. Once again, this is the first best of 3 of the day. This is going to be Ninjas in Pyjamas taking on SK Prime. I'm X, joined by Spuddington for this, the second go-round of the Solomid Invitational's 2014 EU edition.
It wouldn't be EU without some kind of technical issue on some level, though I'm not sure we can blame that last one on the servers. Obviously, though, Champion Select is underway. I'm spectating from the stream because live servers, I'm not in the lobby, etc., etc. So, Malphus, what are the bans so far?
So far, we're seeing some pretty top lane-centric bans coming out from Ninjas in Pyjamas. They banned out Irelia, Jackson. Their final ban will be Lucian coming back out. The counter bans coming out from SK Prime are Twitch, Kassadin, and we're waiting to see their last ban now. To be perfectly frank, I'm expecting something like a Lulu ban, but we'll see what who they end up prioritizing and paring down their champion pool. 280 carry bans here very early on. Lucian and Twitch, arguably the two most popular AD carries on the competitive side of things. And, ooh, it's a Braum ban.
That's actually not that surprising. Braum, a lot of people are saying, is a little bit overtuned for what he is, since he's a new champion, but he's already into the positive win rate, seeming very, very strong kind of pick tier. So as people learn to play champions, obviously they get even stronger, typically. Thresh being, I think, a prime example, because when he was released, he was wildly overpowered, but no one knew because it took everyone ages to work out how to play him. So I was going to say, actually, I'm not expecting NIP to ever really ban out Lulu, because
NIP never will. Yeah,
they never will.
I've used their last ban for it because, as you see, NIP, they first picked the Lulu this time around. They just that's the champion that they want.
Yeah, basically because Alex Ich, when we saw him last time in the Solomid Invitational, basically was still running with a mid lane champion pool in top lane, and Lulu was one of the champions that functions very, very well in that Venn diagram, in that she functions well in top lane and isn't like an awkwardly fitted square peg round hole kind of thing with that lane matchup from that champion pool.
Yeah, it's top laners typically need to have some form of mobility. Generally speaking, if we go back like 3 years into the meta, you would see a lot of like AD carries would go mid and AP carries would go top lane, but then that kind of started switching around to whichever champion had the mobility would go into the top lane, just because of the extra length of the lane and how much more difficult it is to stay safe. And Lulu provides a lot of bully potential against all those really popular melee top laners, while also having the ability to whimsy herself and run away at extremely high speed to get away from ganks. So the length of the lane doesn't really bother Lulu all that much.
Yeah, the thing as well is that she needs to be... Lulu is unique in that she's got such strong kiting all on her own. A lot of the popular picks, being melee bruisers, have a lot of trouble dealing with that pick. But the other beauty, of course, from NIP's perspective, is that just because Alex Ich is running that Lulu top lane a lot doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to be... it's not going to be a Lulu mid lane this time. It's a flexible pick. It means it's much harder to counter pick from SK Prime, because there's actually not that many top laners that have Lulu in their champion pools. Obviously, there are some, but it's not a must know how to play level of champion.
Sure, and also it's, just because Alex Ich is the top laner for this team doesn't mean he's going to be playing in the top lane either. We did see one game in the last Invitational where he took the LeBlanc mid lane. It was just like, okay, let's do this. I'll take your lay down with my LeBlanc. And we are going to end up seeing a LeBlanc this game. So Ko's going to grab up his Lee Sin jungle. So preferring that over the Kha'Zix right now. Those were both available, and those were two of his very favorite champions. And it looks like something happened, and we're going to have to remake again. Okay, Freeze disconnected from the lobby. Very sad.
Lovely. Well, these things do happen. At least we have a little bit of a lineup this time to talk about. Did look like SK Prime had locked in the Evelynn, which is an interesting pick, actually, honestly, to my mind, going up against Lee Sin, because he's such an aggressive roamer with that champion. And if you're also going to have a Lulu with you, she can push up early reasonably strongly, and she can roam to support you very effectively. And she's very good in small skirmish fights, because those fights drag on, and then having multiple shields, multiple rotations of her CC as well, become highly, highly valuable. And as well, obviously, she disengages extremely well if things are going south for you. So leaving yourself a little bit open to such levels of invades. But of course, we are on the live servers, which does mean there are trinkets available from, I think, 30 seconds into the game, which in turn changes an awful lot of the way level 1 dynamics sort of work.
Yeah, it's always pretty interesting too. Okay, hang on. Let me hop out real quick. So Evelynn versus Lee Sin is, I mean, they're two extremely high pressure junglers, and so a lot of times one of the best things you can do to relieve pressure on the lanes is actually just to go into the enemy jungle and find the other guy. And usually you expect Lee Sin to embrace that playstyle a little bit more than Evelynn, but if Evelynn does get caught out, she actually does better against Lee Sin running into her jungle than a lot of junglers do because she has the ability to immediately cleanse the cripple and use that move speed to get away from the Sonic Wave as well. And if you successfully do that, you've completely diffused Lee Sin's invasion, and you can just chase him down. But as you mentioned, it's a lot of it is going to depend on how many of the solo laners are able to clear their lanes and roam in along with the Lee Sin and go for that burst potential on the Evelynn, or just completely force her out of her jungle altogether.
Yeah, you end up with all these fun games because assuming Lee Sin actually misses his Q, Evelyn can straight up one-on-one him anyway. So
Absolutely.
if you can dodge that, if you can cleanse the slow and get out of it, or even just flash the animation, which is always possible. If you have superhuman reflexes, which I would say some challenger players actually border on, you can just see the start of the animation for the Lee Sin Q, and you could, for instance, flash over his head, and then you're guaranteed to dodge it unless they have just the ability to see the future.
Unless they mad life you.
Yeah, unless they are just that far ahead of the game that they knew you were going to flash somehow, and then you just feel terribly unworthy by comparison with the superhuman you're against. So, there's all sorts of little mind games you can play in that one-on-one scenario, but like you say, a lot of it does come down to how the lanes match up. So, don't know what the progress is on getting back into the lobby at this point. Malphus, do you have any word?
We actually started another pick and ban, and then Freeze disconnected again. So
Oh, good.
we're let's actually, you know what? Let's go to a little bit of a break, and we'll come back once the picks and bans are basically done, and we feel really confident that we're gonna go ahead and get into the game. So we're gonna take a little bit of a commercial break while we get Freeze sorted out, guys. We'll be back in just a couple of moments. You can maybe take this opportunity to check out our sponsors, Logitech or ProBuilds.net. You can see URLs to their websites scrolling at the bottom of the screen. We'll be right back. Adages, I suppose.
Yes, the gambler's fallacy dictates we're bound to succeed this time. By which I mean that it's a fallacy, so it might not happen, guys, but I'm hopeful. I am definitely quite hopeful.
You should abandon all hope.
Have,
You enter here. All right, so they communicated their final picks in the lobby, which is why we're seeing they're not picking in the same order. That way they can just go through these picks much more quickly and hopefully do so before Freeze's client crashes again. So that's why we're seeing the Shyvana in the early pickup as opposed to the Thresh that they grabbed up last time. That's why we're seeing Nuke Duck on the Yasuo. So it's going to be a Yasuo versus LeBlanc matchup in the mid lane here. Caitlyn Thresh going to be the bottom lane for SK Prime. And we got the Jinx along with the... Actually, we did not see a support. Oh, it's going to be Jinx Annie. Okay, so they're going for the level 6 kill lane up against the Caitlyn Thresh. Always a fun time.
Yeah, might be a bit difficult for them pre-6, but we'll see how they handle that. They will obviously have some pretty good support from Ko, who is very high presence early game, highly mechanical jungler, as I've mentioned in the past. But I think the really interesting pick here is that they've chosen to pick out this Yasuo here, and I actually am fairly sure that What the Fox also plays a lot of Yasuo, so could be quite an interesting matchup to see the many dash champions, I think is how we can best pigeonhole LeBlanc and Yasuo into the same category, playing off against each other, because the way you use your mobility really does determine how well you do in an all-in.
It's many dashes, but the dashes for... I mean, Nuke Duck has 6 times as many dashes, or 7 times as many dashes level 1. And generally speaking, Yasuo's can abuse that against LeBlanc and sort of bully her around level 1. So What the Fox is going to have to be very careful with that one. The other question is going to be, will we see 2v1 swaps playing here on the 4.7 patch? Things been changed up a little bit. Earlier trinkets provide more level 1 action that we saw before. Both towers now have the protection, the outer tower, both top and bottom lane. So it'll be an interesting evolution to the game. I don't know if Riot have successfully squashed the 4v0 pushing, but I know that they're certainly trying to, and we'll see how it ends up working out.
I think most likely we won't be seeing many 4 versus naughts, but what I am expected to see is a lot more 2 versus 1s to try and get yourself a very farmed hyper carry, which I guess we might actually see in this environment. NIP do have a relatively weak early lane, and if they get rotated back into a 2-on-2 later on, they won't actually be so fast, since by the time they've hit level 6, they'll have scaled back up in terms of their all-in against SK's bot lane. So maybe that'll be the case, maybe it won't. A little bit difficult to tell at this stage.
We'll have to wait until after the break to find out. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, it's going to be our first game of this best of 3 here between Ninjas in Pyjamas and SK Prime. Please take this opportunity to check out our sponsors, Logitech and ProBuilds.net. We'll see you in a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to game number 1 of this best of 3 here between Ninjas in Pyjamas and SK Prime. Kicking off the second installment of the Solomid Invitational's 2014 EU edition. I'm MalphusX, and being joined here by Spuddington.
Yes, welcome guys. We are on the Rift, as you say, and now it does seem like we may be seeing a little bit of some aggression coming out from Ko right now. Either that, or he's just looking to ward off a potential invade. They are actually getting a very early trinket down in the river there, so that will kind of force off NIP, because that is one of the more common early invade paths. Later invade paths, though, don't tend to go via there, but that doesn't matter because the ward will probably have run out by the time they would go for late invade anyway.
So both teams just kind of have the same idea. They just want to fan out and spot any aggression early on rather than actually fighting it. Just kind of using that information to see where the opposing side is and then moving on from there. Nuke Duck going to start off with the sweeper instead of a ward, and it's going to be rewarded with 10 gold. And his first CS of the game. All right, an insurmountable lead now for Ninjas in Pyjamas. Nuke Duck ready to snowball out of control. Rip What the Fox.
Game is over already, we can tell that. I'm actually a little bit surprised to see him going with the sweeper, though. Typically what you would expect from a Yasuo lane who tends to push out is the ward.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. It's because he's playing against an Evelyn, and unless he wards on a camp, he's not going to be able to get effective vision anyway. So he would rather have a sweeper to equally deny vision from What the Fox, so that neither mid laner is going to end up having vision against the junglers. And he's just relying on the fact that Lee Sin will be able to bring more aggression than the Evelyn will early.
Yeah, that is definitely an interesting one. He has started with the E, as you say, much like what we would expect from Yasuo. He'll try and stack that up, get aggressive, do some autoing, that kind of thing in the early game. Ko starting his red, Evelyn starting hers. And it does seem like mid lane would be quite a likely focus because we have got 2v1 lanes, and I don't think either of these junglers are really going to want to hold towers. They're much more likely to try and instigate ganks, either with a 3-on-1 dive or to go for the gank on the mid lane.
The other thing that this allows with Nuke Duck clearing out that early ward is that it opens up this path here for Ko and Alex to try to take away the blue buff, but they're going to get spotted out. Smitty opens up on Ko. Ko going to just sacrifice himself on this one. He's going to try to flash over the wall, but he's got to know the flashes are coming. First blood goes down to Julius. Alex going to get caught out now. He flashes right into what the fuck's 2 quick kills going over to SK Prime.
I have absolutely no idea why they did that. That was bizarre decision making there by Ko, particularly Ko, because he went in for that fight. But by both of them in general, going for that invade when the enemy's dual lane is in the bottom half of the map. That is asking to be countered out there because it puts you on a timer, and they weren't able to steal the buff quick enough. Then they tried to fight a 2-on-2 they couldn't possibly win. Even had Alex Ich gone in with Ko, I don't believe they could have won that. And so they end up giving away 2 kills, and Ko loses his buff very, very early on into the game, which is a really terrible start.
That said, we have seen Ninjas in Pyjamas, back when they were resting pepperonis, come back from some pretty horrific deficits. We'll see. They don't have a Twitch to help them do it this time around, but they do have another super hard scaling late game carry in the form of Jinx. And the Jinx is going to be getting free farm up here in this 2v1 lane, although Julius is going to come try to ruin that a little bit here. Or he might just be trying to open up some farming for Smitty. But in either case, this is not the start Ninjas in Pyjamas wanted to see.
Yeah, well, they're going to be forced to keep pushing this out in the top lane, and that won't be a problem for them. They can afford the tower race. It's just that normally you would be okay with that kind of a tower race if you had a Lulu in that bot lane to try and hold onto the bottom lane. Since she has better wave clear than Shyvana, that leaves Ko free to roam around while Gilius is forced to try and hold this tower up here. But obviously, even if they were to get this tower, that would only roughly equalize the goal already, and that's assuming they don't lose their own bot tower. So that early play there has just cost them immensely.
Yeah, that set them pretty far behind. In addition to that, it put a kill onto the Shyvana, it put a kill onto the LeBlanc. So it cost all of their lanes a lot. It wasn't just like the jungler getting set behind by going for an overly aggressive invasion. But yeah, we'll see if they're able to come back from it. Yeah, they have. You look at sure, Nuke Duck is now down a kill to What the Fox, but he's been controlling the lane really well and has a big CS lead, so he's not going to fall too far behind in that one. The early game lane pressure from the junglers would be the big thing that you have to be concerned about, but Gilius has not really used that pressure at all. He's just been up in the top lane, keeping Smitty from getting pushed into the tower, keeping the tower from dying immediately. And now we're actually going to see a little 4v2 action up in the top lane. Gilius taking down low, Ignite goes down, Ko going to reclaim his buff. Mithy stepping forward, he's going to take out the tower for a little bit. And now they've got Smitty trapped on the tower. The tower's about to fall. Smitty's just caught here. He knows he can't try to leave. He's going to do as much damage as he can. Tries to open up on Ko while nobody can hit him back without taking damage from the tower. Summoner heal going to keep Ko alive. Zap going to get the slowdown on the Smitty. Smitty trying to run himself away from this one. Ko gets the damage in, safeguards himself back out. Smitty still trying to run away from this one. Going to get a lot of bonus move speed from the burnout. The pings go down, and Nuke Duck is responding from the mid lane. He's not going to be able to go anywhere. Smitty.
He's going in.
Back in. Is going to be able to pull Smitty back towards him. And that's going to be Alex Ich getting the response kill as well. So Ko and Alex Ich, the 2 guys that died of that early invade, pick up a pair of the kills in the top lane.
So while it was stylish, the recall was stylish by Ko there, I don't think that was actually necessarily worth it. They got the kills, yes, that is good. But they've lost that bottom tower, and they've also lost a massive chunk of health on this inner tower in the bottom lane because they spent so long committing 4 people to chasing 1 kill. So not necessarily worthwhile, and at the same time, that play could have gone a lot worse since SK Prime should have seen that roam coming in. Lulu was spotted by the Trinket Ward in the Tri-Rush just before she appeared in the top lane. Had they seen the 4-man dive coming, SK Prime could have retreated, and that would have worked out okay for them. They wouldn't have needed to fight the 4 versus 2. Could have even maybe used their teleport to get down on the bottom lane and push that out even faster. But bygones are bygones, and now it does seem like Jinx is going to be freezing this bot lane for quite some time to come. Alex Ich is not going to be the target next, it seems.
And the big thing, they lost a massive amount of health on that tower, and that can be a big problem, especially once Smitty starts moving down towards that bottom lane with his teleport, being able to rejoin the rest of his team. That said, it did even up the gold, so they can actually look for fights in the mid game here. As Ko, man, that's a lot of damage he just put down on Aegilius. But so
Yeah.
if NIP can abuse the fact that their gold is now even and they have champions that can do a lot of work in the mid game, like your Yasuo's, your Lee Sin's, even your Annie once she hits level 6, although she's still a ways off from that one, this that could have been just the equalizer they needed to get themselves right back in this game.
Yeah, that is definitely true. You did see that damage going down on Evelyn because she was trying to clear out the pink board. It obviously takes quite a long time in the early game. I mean, a good 5 seconds sat there hitting the ward can be quite perilous. Nuke Duck, some knockups, but this tower is getting sieged in very, very quickly. Ko will be there soon, but he's not got a lot of health to try and help them out with that.
And that's exactly what you expect to see a Caitlyn composition doing. Is just grouping up and just trying to push down towers as quickly as possible while being very safe. Yasuo can help work against that a little bit with his ability to just throw down the wind wall and either prevent the CC coming in from Thresh or keep Caitlyn from hitting the tower for a couple of seconds. But at the same time, it's almost impossible to just bully a Caitlyn off unless you have good long-range CC, which of course Andy can provide.
Yep, but generally not till she's level 6, so obviously a little bit of time before that. But yeah, expect to see the siege slowing down when that happens. And it becomes a lot more about map movements, how you get in the right place at the right time with the numbers advantage specifically. Because you're sort of in a situation where you can always siege in if you've got a 2-man advantage on a Caitlyn composition. But if it's only a 1-man and there's an Annie there or there's a Yasuo there, there's that engagement potential. You've got to be very careful about it. But SK Prime taking the initiative here. They know that Alex Ich is in the top lane, and they also know there's not a lot to answer them.
Oh, Ko just a little bit early on that one. The Death Sentence goes through the wall and catches Ko out. And it's going to be Ziz or Hadal is the other name of the summoner who's going to end up picking up that kill. Nice attempt by Ko to steal it away, but the smite was just a little early.
Yeah, good coordination from SK Prime there as well. They had a good, half a second there to decide whether they were going in off the threshold, but they clearly did make the call as a team. That gets them the kill. Coming across from Zaitan, but he's not going to be getting the kill. Alex Ich spent this time not pushing out that hard, though, so I'm a little bit surprised to see the slowness of his push there, considering he knew that the big commitment from his opponents was coming.
And he does manage to push it all the way up here, and he got a good amount of experience up there. He's level 6 now. He has the tools he needs to deal with Smitty in this long lane scenario, but you have to wonder if the Evelyn shows up, can he survive that? That's going to be the big question here. We'll see what happens.
It's always hard to kill Lulu, but you're right. It's a dangerous proposition. I think Smitty is going to have to go back, but what we actually saw before when he was left in a direct confrontation with Lulu for quite a while, not this time because he came in on less than half health to begin with, but he was just dirty farming. He ran straight behind, took all the minions away, and straight up cleared them out, which Lulu can match, but is not necessarily going to want to match since she's so dependent on getting her poke down. SK Prime got themselves a good map movement here, though, again. Trying to avoid the dirty word here, but they've got 3 men in the middle, and it's going to force the movement from the bottom lane here of NIP to respond to them, although they're sort of ignoring it at the moment, which I'm not sure I like.
So Alex Ich and Ko putting a good amount of damage on Smitty in the top lane. He's going to immediately have to burn out his flash, and that'll alleviate a lot of the pressure. We see actually a last breath going in onto What the Fox. He's able to, the flay comes down a little early. The wind wall blocks out the Death Sentence. He's just barely able to keep himself alive. Mithy trying to chase this one down with his Bear Tippers, putting as much damage down as he can. He's going to end up falling. Alex Ich saves the ultimate. We'll see if it comes into play for the rest of this fight. Gilius gets kicked back in by Ko from the other side. Flash comes back out. Death Sentence going to land. Zaitan's going to get locked up by the Flame Choppers. Ko pulls himself through with the Resonating Strike. Picks that kill up. Ace in the hole. Going to grab up another kill. Alex Ich yet to use the ultimate. Zap going to pick up the kill on What the Fox at the end. Beautiful Wild Growth will knock Smitty up. He cannot try to chase down onto Nuke Duck. But it's going to end up being a 2-for-1, I believe, overall. In that, no, 2-for-2 overall. So relatively even fights here.
Yeah, relatively even fight, but remember, map movement advantage from SK Prime because they get the damage on the tower and they force out the teleport from Alex Ich. So that gives them that nice little edge. They might be able to make that work for them in the future since they will have their own teleport up a little bit sooner. And this is me kind of guessing on timings here, but they might well have it for the dragon when that pops up without that being available for Alex, although I'm not 100% on that.
They certainly will have a window of time where Smitty will have his and Alex won't. And it's going to come down to what objective excuse me, they can actually force on that one, and where they have their positioning across the map. Sorry, I'm still kind of waking up right here. It's a little early for us NA folks. But I'm
Yeah.
taking a look down for the items and seeing if there's any like major spikes going down. Alex has finished up his Athenes and Holy Grail, which is big, but he's up against a Shyvana who's gone first item Spectre's Cowl. So he's not really going to have as much bully potential. That's a lot of health regen and a good amount of magic resistance. The static Shiv is done for Yasuo, which is his first major important item. And you take a look, and he's 40 CS ahead of What the Fox. So Nukeduck has done an absolutely fantastic job throughout the laning phase in getting his farm. And now he's going to try to do a fantastic job just bursting down Hadol. He's going to find Julius there waiting for him. And they're just going to end up chasing them away from this tower.
Yeah, that gives them the position. So SK Prime getting zoned away from the tower. They will not be able to actually get it, though. That's one of the disadvantages of having your mobile AD carry. You've got to be very, very careful about when you're doing damage to the towers. Looks like they're just going to move away from that, move towards the mid lane here. Shyvana actually going all in the top lane, but I think it's more of just a kind of sending a message job there.
Sure, and they trade ultimates. Trading ultimates is heavily in favor of Shyvana because she doesn't actually have mana costs. So if he forces Alex to use the ultimate on a wild growth to keep himself alive, that's that many fewer glitter lances, that's that many fewer health pixies he's going to have. Sure, having the Athenes is going to help out quite a bit with the mana regeneration, but when you're against a resourceless champion like Shyvana, that mana bar is absolutely your #1 enemy.
Yeah, with the Athenes on Holy Grail, he's not going to have to worry about it too much, but he is struggling right now to put down any lasting harass on Smitty, and that just means that Shyvana gets the farm up, and although there is an argument to be made for Lulu in the late game, I think we can reasonably safely say that Shyvana will outscale just because she becomes such a monster in late game team fights. Not so strong in the one-on-one sense late game as compared to a lot of bruisers, but the AoE magic damage she puts out is just terrifying.
And it's about the combination that Shyvana has with her as well. Because if you get like a good Evelynn flank and then Shyvana ults in and uses a random or something like that, that is a lot of slow that can potentially affect the entire team and allow people to get caught up by Thresh with the CC, allow Caitlyn a lot of free auto attacks from her 650 range, or allow LeBlanc to drop a full combo and pick someone off with a DFG, something like that. So that is certainly a major concern as we start heading into the later phases of the game. Lulu is going to be more reliant on like the Lee Sin getting tanky and being able to take him from a tanky champion into an extremely tanky champion with all the extra effective health that comes from the health picks and the wild growth itself.
Now, okay, so continuing to see a lot of this just farming out, pushing out. Dragon is popping up very, very soon, though, so that's most likely going to be the next point of contention, and I was, in fact, wrong earlier. They do both have their teleports up. That is my sense of timing for you. With both top laners having their teleport, though, it actually means that it's much less likely either side is going to try and start the dragon. They're not quite strong enough, I think, at this stage to be taking it without taking any damage at all, which means you can't safely try and rush it down when the enemies are there. There'll be a tussle for vision control, because if you get complete vision control, you can try and steal it away. But it looks like both the top laners are going to actually just try and roam down to be with the fight when it kicks off without having to teleport in at all.
So SK Prime getting to work on that vision control. The Lantern will spot out the pink ward, but Freeze is going to be here to clear out this pink ward as well. So both teams pretty hard committing onto this one. Alex is going to try to grab himself up a blue buff before it comes time to come down for the fight. So that could certainly be quite helpful for him. Taking his cooldown reduction up to above 30%, 30% plus Runes of Masteries. Oh, they catch out Zaitan. Timbers goes down. There's the Flame Choppers as well. The CC lock is real, and down goes the enemy Thresh. Cope jumps through the box to try to get himself away from the rest of this side. Teleport gets burned by Alex Itch, but Smitty was already down in the area, so he won't have to use his. But nonetheless, that pick is going to give this dragon over to Ninjas in Pyjamas.
Yeah, Zaitan, again, one of these things where it just looks like he didn't have a full assessment of the situation he was walking into there. It was Annie had been out of sight for quite a long time at that point, so maybe he just kind of forgot about her, but that's not something you can really afford to do, and losing the dragon for it is quite an expensive loss, especially when it also gives NIP this opportunity to push out all these other areas. They're going to get the bottom tower, and obviously Fox has been forced to actually not use his ultimate to get that farm in the mid lane. He somehow managed to get most of the CS without it. Oh, Ziz.
Goodbye, Ziz. Beautiful play by Ko there. Using the war jump to get over the wall, then flashing behind the opposing AD carry, kicking her back in. Ziz, or Hadol, either one. Ziz the summoner name on this one.
Hadol, whatever you want to call them.
He did get the heal down, but could not flash away from Ko in time to prevent himself from getting kicked back into the team. So just a beautiful play from Ko.
Yeah, Hadel 2.0. Freeze now. He's not going to be the hit. He's not going to be hit by that death sentence. There's a 3-man team here, but you don't want to commit too hard going up against that lot. There's an AoE stun if you're dashing in with an Evelynn and LeBlanc. They're not too tanky, so it'd be very easy to finish them off in that time with the damage from the Jinx, and very difficult for them to get on them. So they actually lose the mid tower to minions as a result of that movement, and that does mean they are just falling behind a little bit at a time across the board.
All right, so Freeze, let's see what he ends up getting. He has 2,800 gold right now, as he just finally bases right now. I'm kind of thinking, okay, there it is, Last Whisper. He's pretty close to having the Berserker Greaves as well. I'm not sure he'll be able to complete them. No, he won't be able to this time around. So that's a pretty big spike for him. He had so much gold, and he was already doing insane amounts of damage. You have to keep your eye on this Jinx, because her damage output, like the Yasuo is going to scale ridiculously strongly into the late game once he gets his second or third item, if he decides to go for an Infinity Edge next or something else. Julia's going to get caught out, but Thresh is there, and that's going to be the end of that one. But yeah, the Jinx is getting huge, and the Yasuo just picked up BF Sword, so he's working in for the Infinity Edge now. So these two guys, once they start hitting their 2 or 3 item timings, the power spike is going to be huge for Ninjas in Pyjamas. SK Prime need to get work done now.
Yeah, basically we're about to enter the doldrum period for Caitlyn as well, so even though she's got ahead of the game, essentially, she's pretty well farmed, maybe even a bit more than Jinx.
They're going to start this one up. Gilius going to try to get himself away from this one. Smitty comes in with the flank, but it's not going to matter. Zaitan's already taken down. Now Smitty has to try to run himself away from this one. Nuke Duck goes through the box as he dashes through onto Smitty. What the Fox there to try to help out. Goes back in onto Alex Ich. Alex Ich going to get silenced, but doesn't take too much damage from that one. Flashes forward. Can he take down Smitty? Yes, indeed he can. It's going to be Freeze getting that one down. Freeze dropping the right clicks on What the Fox. Chooses the right LeBlanc. Going to pick up a double kill for himself. Alex Ich will finally fall, but it's going to be 1 for 4 in favor of Ninjas in Pyjamas.
Big team fight for them. They rocked that situation, and now they're going to take, I think, just the 1 tower here. Wouldn't want to be pushing in too hard, but they may be even able to try and get the setup on the next. No, looks like they're just going to go for some vision control in this upper jungle here. That will give them an edge, because now, of course, getting towards the point of thinking about Baron. It's not necessarily something they want to do, but it is something they want to start establishing control of with their Baron wards. Now, Gilius has actually found Freeze. I don't think he actually wants that fight, though. No, just going to walk away.
Yeah, Freeze is going to be more than content to successfully steal away the red buff without giving up his life for it. So he's going to be pretty happy about that one. And this is looking really good for Ninjas in Pyjamas. They have a solid lead. They're up about 4,000 gold right now, but so much of that difference is in their AD carry. And they have the AD carry who's going to scale much harder into the late game. They could not be happier with Freeze's performance this game.
Yeah, their team fight is going to be cataclysmically strong. SK Prime, after a certain point in this game, even though they've actually not got a bad team fight themselves, are just not going to be able to fight them, straight up. They will have to try and play around the pick game. They still have that potential. When you've got LeBlanc and Evelynn on your comp, that can really, really work well for you. But right now, they're having some trouble keeping control of their own jungle, even. Ko is not going to see Gilius as he walks past them.
No, Ko was trying to put the pressure down, and Nuke Duck might find himself caught out. Death Sentence is going to get soaked up by the wind wall. Beautifully played. Ethereal Chain will land, but Ko is there. Nice! Tibbers gets a beautiful stun down. Last breath. Only going out on Gilius. Gilius going to drop the ult and re-engage. Nuke Duck taking down very low. Can he get himself away from this one? Smitty's still trying to dive this one down. Can he finish off the kill? Yes, indeed he can. Mithy going to pick another kill up at the same time. Ko taking out extremely low. That's a very squishy Lee Sin. He's going to fall. Death Sentence goes down onto Mithy. Ace in the hole goes down. Triple kill for Hadal. Now Alex Ich finds himself 1v2 in this one. There's a Mikhail's Crucible trying to give a little bit of extra HP over to Hadal. Hadal taking down so low. Death Sentence going to pull him back away, trying to keep the Caitlyn alive as long as he can. Whimsy goes down. Alex Ich trying to chase this kill down onto the Caitlyn. Can he catch it down? Ziz, no health, no mana. Just trying to run himself away from this one. 90 caliber net, the last of his mana, going to get the slowdown onto Alex Ich. He will be able to survive. That's 4 for 3, I believe, in favor of SK Prime.
Yeah, it was a good fight for them there. A little bit predicated, I feel, on the fact that their top laner teleported in basically to the back line, who seemed to have not even noticed he was teleporting in, and their opponent's top laner in the form of Alex Ich was quite late to the party and was still very nearly able to clean it up and make it an even fight. So to say SK Prime do still need to be very careful about when and where they choose to fight, and especially need to be very, very careful about vision control, since that does enable them to avoid having to fight when they don't want to. This pink ward here is very smart, and I'm not sure about doing the dragon right now, mate. That could backfire quite badly for you.
Ko gonna go ahead and go back in. Just so much mobility from him. Gets in onto the Caitlyn, kicks her back out into the team. He's gonna fall down, but he takes the opposing AD carry away. Nuke Duck uses the last breath onto Gilius. Now he has to try to maneuver himself away. Pops a couple boxes, walls of the box rather, as he just dashes around all over the place. And Freeze just goes absolutely nuts. 7, 1, and 8 on the Jinx now. Double kill for Freeze, as Ninjas in Pyjamas are not to be denied on this one. What the Fox is gonna be able to get himself away from this one, or is he? Mithy wants to chase this one down. Gonna get the stuns down. There's the knockup as well. Nuke Duck picks that kill up, and Ninjas in Pyjamas chase that one down for a 1-for-4 exchange.
And thanks to Tibbers, they get to even take the tower straight off without having to wait for the minions, get the dragon, get even further ahead, and this is starting to look really ugly for SK Prime. They're falling a long way behind, they're losing their control over the map, and they're not even being able to create picks, because every time they try, they seem to get locked down, basically by Mithy with the stuns. It's looking like they are a little bit lost for what to do at this point.
I just want to take a second and note that in the span of about a third of a second, Ko brought himself in with the resonating strike, then dropped a ward and jumped to it, and then flashed to get behind the Caitlyn.
Nice.
I mean, like, Haydol did not have his flash available to him. It's coming back up right now. So even if he did spot it in time to react, he wasn't going to be able to get that far away. Like, 90 caliber net isn't instant like Flash is. But that was so incredibly quick and so smooth. Like, Ko's Lee Sin mechanics are just amazing. And they started that fight off so incredibly well. Because while we've talked a lot about how Fed freezes and how incredibly strong he is, the Caitlyn is doing a lot of damage too. 6, 3, and 4 right now on the Caitlyn. I mean, that's a lot of damage output, and being able to just completely take that away right off the bat, even if it means losing Ko's life, it sets NIP up for just fantastic team fighting.
Now SK Prime are being pulled into their opponent's pace here. I'm not sure about going for the kill on Mithy here, but they may get it.
They're going to go back in. Oh, a nice death lands with the Wild Growth, going to cancel the pull-in. There's the Super Mega Death Rocket, not going to land onto anything. Nuke Duck chases down Haydol, picks that kill up. Freeze coming in from the side. Here comes the switch. But everyone's grouped up, just standing there taking the AoE damage from Jinx. Jinx continues to apply the red buff, picks up the kill onto Gilius, and Smitty just going to stand there, and the GG gets called here by SK Prime. And what an amazing team fight from NIP.
Yeah, that was... well, they didn't actually surrender, apparently. So there may be a little bit of an argument going on in the SK Prime camp there. But NIP are going to finish this out very soon. I don't really see any method for SK Prime to come back in this game. Of course, this is a series. This is not a single best of one. So they do have chances in the future. But if there's already trouble in paradise, I think you've got to say there may be some upcoming problems for them as well.
Yeah, this is... I don't know who can take down Freeze at this point, because even if What the Fox gets near him, the itemization for the LeBlanc is pretty low at this point. It's just the DFG and a Blasting Wand, and you have to contend with the fact that Lulu can, give the Wild Growth, can give the health pick, stuff like that. So they're going to need multiple champions to dive in onto Freeze without getting destroyed by Nuke Duck, Mithy, or Ko. And they'll have, I just don't see this going well for SK Prime. NIP pretty much have this one in the bag at this point.
Yeah, as long as they're aware of her, like a fraction of a second before getting bursted, she can't burst anyone on this team. Like, maybe if she were to catch out Annie and get the full combo on her for max damage with the Deathfire, but if she activates her Molten Shield beforehand, I really don't see it being enough damage. You've got Jinx now with the Negatron Cloak, with the team that has a Mikhail's Crucible that's building a Locket of the Iron Solari as well. It's just, there's too much HP and there's too much damage if they don't focus those targets out. So you're in a lose-lose situation. What do? You try and engineer a situation which isn't a lose-lose, but there just aren't very many ways to force such situations when you are this far behind.
And it's been something I've been kind of wanting to bring up for a while, but have never really found an opportunity. Nuke Duck went in for an early Bloodthirster, which I thought was kind of weird, but I was like, okay, I can see it, more sustain. A lot of people get Blade of the Ruin King for that, and then go in for the Static Shift IE build. But he's completely foregoing the IE and just picking up a Phantom Dancer right away. So the crit is going to be super high, his attack speed is insanely high, which means his Q is going to be on pretty much minimum cooldown. but he's not going to have that like super strong, every single auto attack is a massive crit burst that you kind of expect to see out of Yasuo. Obviously, it's not hurting him too badly. He's 5-1-7, and his team's up 10 kills and 12,000 gold. But it's very unorthodox for Yasuo.
Yeah, the other thing is it gives him massive mobility, movement speed-wise. You wouldn't typically have thought you would need that with the dashing that he can already do. But remember, it builds up his flow even faster.
They just try to bring all the burst damage onto the Caitlyn, just kill her with damage alone. The flank comes in from Smitty, but he's trying to protect pretty much no one. Last breath goes in onto him. Gonna get a little bit of, yeah, what the fox? The clone chasing them back out of the base. Nuke Duck gonna get caught up by the death sentence. He's gonna try to get himself away from this. Will successfully do so. Ko has to give up his life. Freeze gonna pick up the first kill. Alex Hitch continue to just tank up the tower. And then they're going 1-for-1 on that one. But Ninjas in Pyjamas still feeling confident about their ability to push down the tower, or not, as they leave.
Yeah, that was a weird dive. That was just bad focus. They weren't able to burst out Caitlyn, which was obviously the biggest problem for them there. But even so, I don't think they should have continued to chase that. As it was, though, looks like they may be going for the re-engage.
Mithy rather, Midi. Comes in, gets the flash stun down, but they're still not able to pick anyone off. Nuke Dog gets the knockup, doesn't have the ultimate available to him. And that's going to be that's going to be one of the Nexus towers actually falling down to the super creeps coming in from the top lane. So NIP, they just need to continue the engagement. They just need to keep SK Prime caught up there in the mid lane, and as a result, they lose both Nexus towers.
That is why they were tempting fate with the re-engage there. I'm honestly not sure they needed to take the risk, because at this point, they had so much control anyway. Why go for like a medium risk, high reward when you could just take low risk, high reward? But NIP still there, showing their control over the map, showing how well they understand the minion pressure that's going on. Get their Nexus towers, they got their high reward, and they've also got the Baron, since there was no realistic way that SK Prime could do anything about that. And I think at that point, really the surrender vote wouldn't be so untoward.
They're still not going to go for it just yet. They're going to force him to do it the old-fashioned way, which is fine. Yeah. With Freeze at this point, it's not going to take him long to get that done. He's got the static shift done now, so he's got the 3-item AD carry core of Bloodthirster, Last Whisper, and an attack speed item. And he's actually picked up a QSS now as well. So it's going to be really difficult for anyone to just like lock him up or even burst him down. LeBlanc's still going for a death cap 30 minutes in, only has the DFG, still can't complete the death cap. So there really isn't much threat here for Freeze to have to worry about. And Ninjas in Pyjamas group up. They're going to bring their Baron buff and all their items down into a lane and look to finish the game.
Yeah, I think actually just sheerly because of how long it's taking to get these items, so there is a higher amount of experience by comparison with gold right now. Probably you'd be better off going for a Void Staff on LeBlanc at this point, but doesn't really matter. Nuke Duck was fighting the temptation to go in there. You could see he wanted to, but it was like, actually, the one way we could potentially lose this game is me being very, very silly about going for engages, so he's not going to do it. And they are just going to go for Siege on the top lane.
Alex Hitch teleported in. They wanted to try to burst the inhibitor down before anyone could get there and respond as soon as it respawned. But no one, they weren't able to successfully take that one down. Ultimate goes down on a Nuke Duck. That's not going to be enough for the engagement there. The Timber goes down onto Zaitan. Smitty just throws himself up towards the front line, trying to protect the rest of his team as best he can. Freeze now on the run. Nuke Duck on the run. Ethereal Chain goes down onto Freeze. Freeze going to get taken down pretty low, but he's going to try to back around. They pick that kill up. Alex Hitch is trying to go X-Peke on this one. Ko going to show back up as well. He's going to try to help out. Haydol trying to deal as much damage as he can. Ko wanted to get the Dragon's Rage to knock the Caitlyn up as well. Wasn't able to successfully do so. Ace in the hole goes down. That's be the kill onto Alex Hitch. Two-man knockup. Last breath goes down, and that's going to be the game going over for Ninjas in Pyjamas.
Yeah, GG, well played there. Ace in the hole, the nemesis of all X-Peke attempts, but still, a very commanding performance by NIP. They looked maybe a little bit wonky in the early game, but given how strong their scaling was, that was really not a bad way for it to go for them. And, well, SK Prime are going to have to do some thinking in the gap between the next game and now, because they really, really did not have an answer. Once the team fight started rolling, NIP were just way, way too good for them.
And that's what was so impressive about that, too, is that they started off with that horrific level 1. They got set so disastrously behind and then took complete control of the game, and it was pretty dominating from about the 10-minute mark onward. So really nice play by NIP. We'll see if they can replicate it here. We're going to take a little bit of a break, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in here to Solomid Invitationals 2014, brought to you in part by Logitech and ProBuilds.net. I've been Malphus X, being joined here by Spuddington. We're going to take a break. When we come back, it's going to be game number 2 of this best